friends, thanks for joining me today. So we are going to start with some bread. So it is a beautiful fall day here, and this kind of weather just screams fresh made bread for me. So it just goes perfectly with what we're having for dinner tonight. This is just a super easy, quick bread. It's going to rise for 2 to 3 hours. It only has like 4 ingredients, so it's going to go together really quick. So we're just going to mix together 3 1/4 cups of flour. Make sure that when you are measuring flour that you're using a knife or something to level it off so that you have the correct measurements. That's the thing with baking. Baking is a science, and especially when you're using yeast to do something, it really has to be an exact measurement, or you're really going to run into trouble if you don't have the right measurements for it. So, all right, so there's 3 cups. I'm going to add another 1/4 cup of flour really quick. All right, there is our 3 1/4 cups of flour. We've got 2 teaspoons of a rapid acting yeast. We're going to put that in. We've got 1 teaspoon of salt. Now this recipe doesn't call for herbs. I like an herb bread, so I'm going to add a little bit of dry oregano to this. Probably about a teaspoon. I'm going to add a little bit of sweet basil to it. We're having Tuscan chicken, so I think the Italian herb mixture kind of goes really well with that. And I'm just going to add a little bit of onion powder. I just like that little bit of onion flavor. So we're just going to shake in here about a 1/2 teaspoon. There we go. All right, so we're just going to mix this together really quick. We're going to lock it down so it doesn't move. We're going to mix this together really quick. While it's mixing, we have a 1.5 cups of hot water. And you're just going to slowly pour this in while it's mixing. And we're just going to let this all come together. We can slowly increase our speed. Make sure you don't do that until the water starts to absorb some of the flour starts to absorb some of the water. Because if you don't do that, you're going to wind up with flour flying everywhere, and you don't want that all over your kitchen. So like I said, this is a really super easy bread to make. We can just mix up these few little ingredients. We're just going to let it come together. As soon as it starts to pull away from the bowl, I'll show you here in just a second. As soon as it starts to pull away from the bowl a little bit, then it's ready to go. And, all right, we are there. Unlock this. So it is going to be a little bit on the sticky side, but that's exactly what this recipe calls for. Let me grab a spatula really quick. All right, so we have a spatula. We're just going to scrape down our dough hook so we get all this dough off of this. We don't want to waste any of this. Get this all scraped off. All right, so this, I'm just going to put it kind of scrape it into kind of a ball. Let's see, just use that to scrape it off a little bit. All right, so let me show you what this looks like now. So this is what our dough looks like. Nice and moist. It's a little bit tacky, but that's okay. It's going to firm up. So we're going to put some saran wrap over this. We're going to put this in a dry, warm area of your kitchen. Where I like to put it is on top of my stove. That seems to be a perfect place. It's out of a draft. Draft is not your friend when you're trying to rise yeast. You want to keep it out of a drafty area. You want to keep this nice and covered. So we're just going to grab a tea towel. We're going to set it on the stove. It's just going to sit there so that it can rise for the next 2 to 3 hours. And then when I get back to this, when it's all risen, I'll come back and show you guys how we're going to put this on a pizza stone or on a stone pan. Either one will work. That gives you a nice crusty bottom on your bread. It makes it really super nice and chewy, which is what you want for this kind of bread to go with our Tuscan chicken, which is going to have a little bit of a tomato type sauce on it tonight for dinner. And so we'll be back in a little while. Hi friends. So we are going to make a really quick dish. I love to do this during the week when things are a little bit crazy. Wednesday nights are kind of busy for us. We have Bible study, so it's by the time my husband gets home from work, we just have things we have to get done before we have to leave. We have our dogs to feed, and that's a whole process. So anyway, we like to have really quick things to do on Wednesday night for dinner. So this is the Tuscan style herb chicken. I had to think. So it comes all ready to go. You just have to add a couple things to it. Since there's just the 2 of us for dinner, I only cook 1 giant chicken breast with the veggies and potatoes. So I don't need the entire package. So I know that this package is 1/4 cup. So I measured out 1/8 cup for the seasoning for us. So I already have some potatoes chopped up right here. We're gonna chop up one more potato. For the two of us, I'm using 3 kind of small-ish sized potatoes. Just gonna quarter them and then just give them a rough dice so we end up with some nice even cubes for the potatoes. Those are gonna go in. I love this dish because it's super easy. The other thing that I love about it is that it goes together in just a matter of minutes, as you're gonna see. So this can be done either the night before, or it can be done first thing in the morning before you leave for work. So it just makes it really super simple, really easy. It actually is really good if you do it in the morning or the night before and just let it sit in the refrigerator covered overnight, so that it can just really start to absorb all the flavors of the seasoning packet and the diced tomatoes and all that. So it really is a super easy dinner for weeknights. This takes about, for the full recipe, it takes about 2 pounds of chicken. If you wanted to do it for 2 people, you could certainly do it for 2 people and just make the full pan, and then just put some in the refrigerator for leftovers for the next night, which that's totally up to you. The other thing we're going to add to it is we're going to add, I thought I had some fresh carrots. This is why pantry staples, frozen carrots are always a great thing to have in your refrigerator. So we're just going to pour in some frozen carrots in here. Hubby loves carrots, so we're just going to use a half a bag of frozen carrots. And the recipe calls for 1 full can of drained diced tomatoes. I don't need the whole can because I'm only making a half a recipe. So we're just going to add in about half of this can. That's about half. All right, give me 1 second here while I wipe the raw chicken. Love these Clorox wipes. So if you need to do a quick wipe up and you're in the middle of something, you can always just grab that and grab a spatula really fast. So we're just going to give this a quick mix with our tomatoes and our carrots and our seasoning, and all of this is going to get mixed together, and it is going to be amazing. Here's our seasoning. We're going to put that in, and then we're just going to give this a quick mix. So this is going to go in the refrigerator because I'm not going to cook it till my husband gets home tonight. So this is going to sit and marinate for a couple of hours till he gets home, and then it can just go in the oven and it can bake, and then it'll be ready for us to eat before we get on with our busy Wednesday evening. So I'm going to get this mixed up. I'm going to get it in the fridge so that it can finish just kind of soaking up all this flavor, and I will see you guys back here when it's all ready to go in the oven. Hey friends, so we're back. This is the dough that we did earlier today. It's been rising for about 2 to 3 hours. So you can see it's pretty loose. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some flour down on our board, because like I said, the dough is pretty sticky. So we're just gonna spread this around. You don't want to overwork this dough, even though it's really runny. It's gonna be fine. You just want to pull this out of your bowl, get this onto your flour board. You'll have to roll it around a little bit in the flour so that you can shape it and work with it, because we're going to fold it onto itself a couple of times to get a nice even loaf. Okay, so we have that all out of there. So make sure that you flour your hands pretty well, because like I said, it's pretty sticky to start off with. So we're just going to get it folded up onto itself so that we're going to have a nice tight loaf. You're going to stretch it a little bit, just get it formed, get it. So you basically want to have a nice taut top. Don't worry too much about the bottom. That's not your main concern. Is you want the top of this to be a nice, see how we have this nice and tight around here? That's exactly what you want. So to give your bread a nice crusty consistency in the oven, we're going to put a pan of water down below your baking pan. So what we're baking this on is a pizza pan. You can hear the oven, it just went off, so the pan's ready. So we're going to pull this pan out real quick. We're going to set this up on our stove. We're going to take our pan of water. It's going to go on the bottom. Hold on 1 second. Let me move the rack back in. So we're just going to put this pan of water on the bottom down here and hope we don't spill a ton of it in the process, which I can hear I just did. But that's okay. okay, because it'll make it easier to clean. All right, so our bread is nice and taut. So we're gonna take this whole thing and we're gonna put it right on this hot stone. We're just gonna put this back in the oven. It's gonna bake for 30 to 45 minutes until it's done all the way through. All right, that's in there. We've already put our Tuscan chicken in the oven. That's gonna bake for about 30 minutes, so they should bake about the same amount of time. They should be done, and we'll show you what everything looks like when it's all done. Hey everybody, so our Tuscan chicken is done. You can see our chicken and our potatoes, our carrots, this yummy sauce. It's all ready to go. Here's our bread that just came out of the oven. It's cooled for just a little bit because it was pretty hot. You don't want to cut bread when it's too hot. Otherwise, the steam just makes it mushy. So you can hear that nice crust on there. That's what your pan of water does. So we're going to cut this real quick so you guys can see what the inside looks. And there is our yummy super bread. Only 4 ingredients. Super easy. Anybody can do this. We'll see you guys next time.